Welcome to Blind Bourbon and Whiskey Reviews. I'm your host Lindsay and this is John, risking his liver to discover new bourbons.
Yeah, I got skills.
Yeah, what's your monkey feet? Oh, Lord. All right. So we're doing another one of our kind of off segment things. Something John and I are really intrigued by was sour mash. So
I've named this segment. It's called Learn Ya Somethin.
learn ya something. Y'all about to learn y'all something.
Learn Ya Somethin. So, we did a review earlier, and I thought it smelled like a sour mash, so it made me think, do certain whiskeys have a sour mash smell? I have learned a lot more than I thought I would on this topic. Apparently, most Tennessee and bourbons are sour mash.
Mm-hmm.
There was one that I see it wasn't. Is it Wilderness Trail? I'm sure there's a couple more out there, but they use sweet mash. So I'm gonna be drinking Michter's Sour Mash. This one actually has a meaning to it. Most put it on there for marketing because sour mash, it just sounds cool.
Mm-hmm.
This one is not a bourbon and it is not a rye. Both grains are less than 51%, so they can't label it either. So they just slap sour mash on it. So it's just an American whiskey. But I'm almost done with this bottle, so I'll finish this tonight. Probably won't be walking.
Here we go.
Alright, you want to go into what sour mash is?
Okay, so sour mash, also known as stillage, spent mash, spent grain, backset, spent beer. There's a lot of different terms that they use when they're explaining it. The bottom line is sour mash is the mash that they use to create the whiskey. They strain it out, they take part of that, and they mix it into the new batch of whiskey. So you constantly have the same mash going into every single batch of whiskey. So usually they use it with a 3-to-1 or a 4-to-1 ratio, meaning 1 part old mash, 4 parts new, 1 part old mash, 3 parts new, depending on what distillery you're looking at. The biggest thing that these distilleries are using sour mash for is consistency. They want consistency across the board with whatever whiskey or bourbon that they're trying to create this with. So it helps, excuse me, it helps to get rid of the stillage or the mash as well. So after a batch is made, they strain it all out and they add that batch to the next one, and they just keep doing that, and it just keeps creating. So you can have batches that have minute but have small parts from umpteen years ago that are still getting processed through, which I thought was kind of cool.
That's similar to like there's something called a Solera method.
Okay.
They'll dump a barrel and then they'll save a little bit and add it to the next barrel.
Yeah, you were telling me about that a while ago.
That's a cool one. That'll be another cool video we have to touch on.
Is that kind of like the barrel one that we have?
Yeah, they do a Solera too, I'm pretty sure.
So, really interesting stuff with this one. Similar technique for some people, it might be easier. Sourdough bread. I work at Panera Bread. I deal with bread all day, every day. I don't know how exactly we make ours, but it's the same exact concept where some people will save a little bit of their dough when they make sourdough bread and they move that into their next batch, and they continually do that. Same exact thing. They're looking for the consistency. They're looking for that flavor that they're getting through with all of their bread loaves. So same exact thing. It's just with mash instead of bread.
Did you touch on the pH balancing?
So the pH, sour mash helps keep the pH low so that unwanted bacterial growth doesn't happen, and it creates the proper balance for the yeast to work. So not only is it bringing an element from a previous batch or a previous mash, it's also doing the distillers some favor by helping them have to do less work.
Yeah.
Because they're creating that bacterial growth so that the yeast forms and they get a nice mash. It's also environmentally friendly because the unused mash, a lot of them feed it to livestock. They give it to farmers, or they have farms or whatever, and they bring it there and they feed it to their livestock. So that's kind of cool too.
So do we have a bunch of drunk cows walking around?
Maybe. I think you were telling me about
There is
a farm that feeds them only that, and it creates this unique kind of beef.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was. I heard it on a podcast. They feed their spent mash to their cows, and then they have their own restaurant that they sell that beef for.
And apparently,
that's really good.
It's on point. So
I gotta figure out who that was.
Yeah, we'll have to get some more information on that.
If anyone knows, leave a comment.
Yeah. So the sweet mash that John touched on, we could only find that Wilderness Trail uses it.
I didn't look too hard into it, but
I guess it's kind of a hidden thing because, or taboo-y kind of, I guess. It's a sweet mash, and it doesn't use any mash from the previous batches, but it's more consistent and a better flavor, but the problem is that it can be contaminated really easily. So a lot of distilleries won't use it because they don't want to risk contaminating the whole batch. Which, I mean, I understand when you're brewing thousands of gallons of this stuff.
Brewing?
Well,
distilling.
Thousands of gallons of this stuff. I mean, I wouldn't want thousands of gallons of my whiskey going down the drain.
So sweet mash is a lot of work, but it puts the control in your hands.
Yeah.
But you got to clean, you got to do many tests, you got to keep an eye on everything.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to try some Wilderness Trail now. I want to see how that is.
See how that goes. But yeah, so it's funny too. John and I found out that it is used in most Tennessee whiskeys and bourbons. They use the same technique, but some of them just don't put it on their bottle, I guess. So you might never know you're actually drinking a sour mash.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's been kind of with the pH and stuff too. It said that it was acidic and nutrient rich, so that also helps with the bacteria growth, and it just makes an all around better mash.
It prevents bacteria growth, but it helps the yeast grow.
The yeast is a bacteria.
Okay, so it prevents bad bacteria, I guess?
I would say. So that would be what my guess is saying, because if it's saying that it's nutrient rich and acidic, it's also going to keep that bacteria, because yeast is a bacteria.
Yeah.
But if it's killing off the bad bacteria and promoting the good bacteria, that would be exactly what they're looking for.
It's kind of like yogurt in a way.
Cultures and stuff.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, I wanted to do this video because I was wondering, am I actually getting the sour mash smell or the taste? I do get a little bit of sour on some of them, but from what I can tell, people are saying that it doesn't change the flavor. You can't tell which ones are which. I think it does change the flavor, but
I think it depends.
It's
Everybody,
hard to tell.
I mean, you drink your whiskey neat. I would prefer it over the rocks. Somebody prefers it mixed with a little bit of water. It's the same exact concept, I think, because it's not, sour mashes do not make sour whiskey. Sweet mashes do not make sweet whiskey. That's not what they're there for. It's just a term that they use. Like the sour mash, it's sour, like milk is sour or whatever. It's bad. It's old. But they're still going to use that to impart the flavors and the bacteria that they need to create another mash. So I think that's kind of where they were going with that. It's not to implement that the whiskey is going to be sour by any means. However, I do think that you can still get a smell and taste from it. It probably has its own, just like you can tell what yeast is. You can tell if a bread's just natural rising or if it has yeast in it. John works in pizza. He can, you have a nose for that stuff where I might not have as good of a nose for it. Same thing.
So what I'm wondering is when I smell something sour, so a sour mash gives it like a sweet, slightly sour smell.
Okay.
I'm wondering if that's like contributing to the flavor. You don't get everything from the barrel. So when I get something that's stronger than that sweet and sour smell, I wonder if it's just one of those higher percentages of sour mash.
It could be. Could be anything. I mean, that could be a big possibility.
I didn't see anyone touch on that. I didn't see anyone say that it contributes to the flavor. But I kind of feel like it does. Like this one, it's different. Maybe because it's not over 51% corn or rye,
Yeah.
but it's different. It's good. It's just not something I can drink all the time.
It's definitely an interesting topic.
I mean, there's some notable brands that really promote themselves as sour mash, like Elmer T. Lee and Evan Williams and Ezra and this Michter's. And it really doesn't mean much because they all are.
right. Majority of them are.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, maybe that's their marketing ploy.
Yeah.
You know, you never know. It's interesting. Definitely, if you get a chance to read up on it. If you guys have anything to add, comment, let us know. We're always interested to learn. I think this is why we're starting this little tidbit, because there's so much in depth with whiskey and bourbon and everything out. Like, there's just so much there, and it's
We haven't even
mind-blowing.
scratched the
I
surface
know.
of bourbon yet.
We feel like we know so much, and we just don't.
We want to get into Canadians and Irish and maybe Scotch, even though I'm not really loving Scotch.
I don't
right
know
now.
what we're gonna do with Scotch. Neither one of us really care for it, so
Just not into the peatiness.
we'll see. We might get into it. We'll figure it out, but
All right, let us know if you like this video. Let us know if there's facts that you may know that we didn't bring up.
broaden our horizons of sour
We
mash.
searched around pretty good, and I think we touched this subject pretty good. So,
Are you gonna foot it off now?
no, that's a lot of work.
Oh, well, there you go.
Are we just gonna sit here in silent and record for the next? Let's watch Lucifer and then we'll end the video.
Yeah.
It's
Y'all
gonna
get
be
to
our
listen.
first half-hour video.
Please like and share us to social media, subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to leave a suggestion for our next review. Thanks for watching.